IMX 2021. For those of you who are not familiar with what the Metaverse is, I am joined here today by three wonderful panelists who are going to share with us the inside outs of this parallel digital world. My name is Alessandro. I am the International Business Director at music services company Kanjian Music, and I will be your host for this session. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our guest speakers for today. On your screens, you have Gordon, Kaspar, and Tiago. Gordon, shall we start with your introduction?
Sure, really great to be here. So I'm Gordon, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Anything World, and we're a platform that helps people to build 3D worlds super easily. What we do is we bring any 3D model to life and cut out the steps of modeling, rigging, animating, coding behaviors. So yeah, we cut out these highly technical steps and we allow anybody to build what we call limitless 3D worlds. You can request whatever you like and have it moving around in your game or other 3D world with us. That was a bad introduction, wasn't it? I need more coffee, but yeah, super happy to be here.
No, I think that was perfect. Kaspar, would you like to go next?
Hey everyone, my name is Kaspar. I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Wolf3D. We're the company who built Ready Player Me, which is a cross-platform, avatar solution for that allows people to create an interoperable avatar of themselves and use it across many virtual experiences. Today we have over 500-600 different companies that are using it across social apps, virtual concerts, games, and many more. There's a lot of big and small companies like Horizons and TCLs and entities and many others. So our goal eventually is to become the avatar provider for the metaverse. It's kind of like your identity for whatever virtual experience you're going to have.
Thanks, Kaspar. And last but certainly not least, Tiago.
Sure. Hi, I'm Tiago Correia, and I work for a team called New Business and Ventures at Warner Music, which focuses on new technology, new business models, new content formats, anything that we think can have a commercial impact in the way that our artists do their business.
Perfect. Thank you for the intro, guys. I wanted to start off this session by asking you, what is your own personal take on the metaverse? So in simple words, how would you describe the metaverse to users and artists who are not familiar with this concept? Maybe we can start with Gordon, the mastermind behind the metaverse.
Mastermind? I'm not the mastermind behind the metaverse. Otherwise I'd be much richer if I was.
No, excuse me. I by mastermind, I meant the company in this case, like Anything World, that is behind creating a metaverse. But yeah, sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, I guess it's difficult to define. It's kind of a nebulous concept, the metaverse, and one that everybody's talking about, especially if you're raising investment or doing marketing stuff. It's always good to talk about the metaverse, but I guess it's this notion of persistent 3D worlds that accompany our lives, that are fed by like intelligent systems like Anything World, and with avatars built by Ready Player Me. This is why we're that's why we're in the panel, I guess. But yeah, it's just this notion of a 3D world that you can dip in and out of. Let's say you create your own avatar with Ready Player Me. That's there on the web, when it's there on your phone, that's there on your game console, it's there on your music concert. So it's, yeah, persistent 3D world is how I see it, that connect everybody. Persistent virtual world is how I would see the metaverse, but it's in its formation, it's in its infancy, and it's a marketing term essentially, so it's difficult to pin down is how I see it. But I see like Ready Player Me being like a key for like avatar generation. So if I can have my own avatar across all my digital platforms, that's very powerful. If I can create limitless 3D worlds within all my games and digital platforms with Anything World, that's also very powerful. So I think these two companies, obviously horrifically biased, are going to be key players in the generation creation of the metaverse. But the metaverse itself is it's a concept of persistent 3D worlds to me that accompany our lives increasingly. That was a long answer.
And very on point. Thanks for that. Kaspar, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, like what we believe and kind of the way we see metaverse evolving is we believe that it's not going to be one single application, one single company who owns the metaverse. We believe that it's going to consist of many of thousands upon thousands of different worlds built by different developers, either small, mid, or large companies. It really doesn't matter. And there will be numerous different worlds, either for work, for gaming, for studying, for socializing, for going to concerts. And that's kind of like what we believe in. And in order to make this end user experience of navigating between those worlds really good, that's why you need to have a cross application avatar service, and that's what Ready Player Me is aiming to become, this standard avatar solution, because we believe that the real immersion comes from being able to have consistent identity, being able to jump from one experience to another, which today really isn't possible. And that's why we also believe that, and why we're building Ready Player Me is we hope Metaverse is not going to become this dystopian future where one company is going to own everything and control people. We think about it in a more decentralized way. There's going to be a lot of different players. There's going to be a lot of different ways people can interact within the metaverse, but it's kind of like a version of our real life in an enhanced format. So it gives people ability to communicate with each other over long distances, or if you weren't able to go to a music concert before because you had to travel 10 hours by car or fly there, you could do that from the comfort of your home by still having this immersive feeling of you together with your friends enjoying the music concert. So I think it's going to disrupt a lot of different industries and have its impact in ways we haven't even thought about before. We've been doing that for over 7 years now, and we still today get surprised the way people are leveraging our technology to kind of build what we call like the metaverse concepts in very traditional industries that haven't seen any innovation for a long time.
It's an interesting point, actually, Kaspar, about ownership. Oh, you've frozen a bit, Alessandro. I wonder if you're still recording, but yeah, like ownership of like all companies, industries that are built on rights management, like the music industry, is definitely going to change with the metaverse and content creation. With your systems, our systems, who owns it? Is it decentralized? I think it's going to break up the notion of rights and ownership for digital assets, isn't it? And then it's going to be kind of a more of a, like you say, decentralized shared thing. And maybe empower people to create stuff and own stuff, like maybe TikTok does for creators today, but in the 3D world. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Oh, absolutely. I also think the possibilities of the metaverse are yet to be seen, but we will touch upon this towards the end of the panel. Tiago, what's your own impression of the metaverse?
Sure. Metaverse is a place whereby you can have your own identity, which is defined truly and purely based on your own accord. And therefore, you can be whoever you want to be and however you want to be. You can customize that identity by having one or multiple versions of your appearances, where you can be seen or wear different elements of costumes or different elements of skins or different elements of body parts, etc., on your avatar as your identity, and where you go through different worlds or experiences or games or places, which sometimes can be built by the developers of the platforms that hosts that, or sometimes can be built by creators and artists and other individual developers, which are coming from the world of the users as opposed to the world from the actual centralized platforms.
Great. Thank you. Those were all very detailed and diverse explanations. So, Gordon, what is the process of creation and design of a metaverse? it would be great to hear some highlights from that range from the consultation part to the actual creation. But yeah, how do you create a digital universe?
Yeah, I mean, creation of 3D content at the moment for most people is quite tricky, quite time consuming. So traditionally, you'd employ like a 3D modeler to model a character or an asset, and then you go into some animation software, something like Blender, and you'd rig it, and then you make preset animations for it, then bring it into, let's say, a game engine like Unity or Unreal, and then build it and publish it for whatever it is. Let's say it's a mobile game. So those steps of modeling, rigging, animating are quite technical, quite complex. And then once you're in your game engine or environment, you need to code behaviors, control those animations, do the movements for things. So all those steps are variously quite technical and very time consuming. And what we try and do at Anything Web, what we do is we cut out all those steps. So you can use code or your voice or panels to request any object you like. We bring it into your 3D world already moving. So cutting out all those steps is that we see it as like transformational for 3D content creation. We're just at the start in terms of what we want to do. We're bringing higher poly models in, more high fidelity stuff. But yeah, cutting out those technical 3D content creation steps we see as a key for the metaverse and any kind of 3D content creation. Because at the moment, it's out of the hands of most people. And I guess that's kind of a growing trend in creativity in general, in 3D worlds in particular, is, what our solution is like server-side, heavy machine learning, heavy statistics, deep learning, extremely complicated, more complicated than my brain can handle. We have a very talented team, but this like insane complexity behind the scenes, enabling people to create very easily, in our case, use your voice to create an underwater world and add 1,000 whales in it. It's very intuitive and simple for the user. Behind it is a load of complexity. And I think that's a trend that we'll see like going on and on with the metaverse and the content creation for it. If that answers your question, I'm not sure it does, but.
Oh yeah, it certainly does. Thanks for that. So Tiago, how does this creation process work from a label and artist perspective? And in particular, how does an artist approach this? Is it more of a sit back and learn, or a proper full-on involvement in all the operations? Be great to hear also something from the work you've done with Anything World for your artist, Ashniko. Please go ahead.
The process is as much involved as the artists and the managers would want them to be. We're here essentially as a label to serve artists and to serve managers and to make sure that their visions and creative desires are well replicated in the metaverse. So when we're working with our artists and when we're working with their managers to build something new, we usually take into account our pre-existing knowledge, everything that we know about the artist's needs and wants, everything we know about their releases, their career, everything that we can distill it down into a brainstorm that would serve the basis for what we first target as the object of this thing that we're building in the metaverse, whether that's a game, whether that's a place, whether that's a world, whether that's in a concert or event. And after that, we work very closely with the manager and the artist to make sure that the ideas that we had alongside with them are executed in a way that are faithful to what they want, right? So they'll have very close creative approvals, and we'll have very close creative calls to make sure that things are correct in their mind and in the product of development. We've done a lot of projects in the past. I think we were talking previously about the Ashniko game that the folks from Anything World did. That was very much one where we took very much the project management role and looked at the different versions of the game and the experience, and we kept iterating and obviously made sure that as we went along, passed that information to Ashniko and her team to make sure that everything was in top shape and everything was to her and her team's appraisal and approval.
Kaspar, how does it work on your side, and what is the process of creation of an avatar? And you know, the role an avatar has in a game or in a metaverse. I've been peeking through the Ready Player Me website, by the way, and I see that you work with quite an extensive amount of companies. How do you go about pleasing all of them?
Yeah, I mean, like, to add what Cornor mentioned, like anything in the, you know, this space with 3D assets is relatively complicated. That also applies to characters, you know, or you know, building the worlds has been like really complicated. And what we've seen happening today, where the concept of metaverse has become like slightly a buzzword, and a lot of companies are entering the space without having any kind of skill set to participate. That's where solutions that are really easy to use become very relevant, whether it's like building the world, what anything world does, or building a character. So in our case, you literally take a selfie, we automatically generate your avatar. You can dress it up the way you like. What kind of outfit would you like to use? You click the button next and you're done. You know, we're trying to keep it super easy for the end user to do, because we believe in simplicity. And also when it comes from the developer's perspective, the ones that want to use the characters in their game, we made the entire process of integrating this also very, very simple. So people who are new to the space, they can do that. But if, for example, you've been building games for the past 20, 30 years and you have a lot of experience in the space, you still get a lot of value from the tool, from the same tool that the newcomers are using. So simplicity is really the key going forward. And I think like the more we can add in terms of like creating the worlds, creating the experiences, the bigger the pie gets, essentially. The more people can come in, the barrier to entry gets lower. And that's basically what, you know, makes the metaverse. Like I mentioned before, it's a network of thousands upon thousands different applications. So we need people to go and build experiences. In terms of what role avatar plays in an experience, you know, we believe avatars being as a form of identity. Each game or an experience has usually, even traditionally, an avatar that represents someone in that, you know, immersive virtual environment. What we believe in is having consistent identity. If you look back to traditional social networks, most of the traditional social networks that have succeeded have been based on, you know, some form of consistent identity or real identity. And you know, that's what we believe ourselves in as well, that to have this consistent identity, it brings a stronger kind of connection with the user and the avatar that kind of represents them in some shape or form in this virtual environment. We see more and more people hanging out in 3D spaces. So we as either like gamers or VR enthusiasts or people going to virtual concerts, we spend more and more time in those spaces, meaning our avatars, our identities become even further more important for us. And those avatars are vehicle for a lot of things, from NFTs to having it you know, as monetization. So a very simple example, if we want to bring something from the music industry, is there's a bunch of different companies that we work with that use Ready Player Me as an avatar system. They do virtual concerts. And you know, what do you do traditionally when you go to a virtual concert? If you're the artist, you sell merch. How can you sell merch today if there's no avatar as a vehicle where you can wear, on which you can wear the merch? So they're using avatars as a way, so you can buy the, you know, you went to the concert, you can buy the shirt from the concert, have it as a, you know, memory from that particular experience, and use that same shirt that you purchased across all of the different applications that we are working with, either it be in the gaming space or socializing, or if you're using your avatar for dating, you can still have the same thing that you got from the concert as a memory to and use it in other applications. So to put it in short, like we see avatars being as a form of identity in whatever virtual experience you're using.
Oh, I appreciate it, guys. Those are some very interesting points. So once the metaverse is created, then what happens next? Tiago, I'd like to get your input on how you create engagement around music in such virtual worlds. So for example, how does the marketing for a campaign to promote a metaverse concert look like?
It's very different one to another. I mean, it really depends on what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to launch a place, an experience in a platform like Roblox, or an event or a concert somewhere else. Usually the big difference starts if you have or are using or are working with a platform that already has an inbuilt audience versus creating something completely new as a standalone. Naturally, if you do a standalone without any captive audience, you're going to have to go out and about and spend some marketing budget to make sure that people hear the message, make sure that people hear about what you're trying to do and convert them into a user of that specific experience. That might be perceived as a bigger challenge to some, but it is still an option whereby we do get other advantages, namely the fact that you are controlling the experience in full. The quid pro quo on the other side is if you have and are using a existing platform with an existing audience, with existing reach outs, that tends to be easier for you to reach that audience and make sure that consumers and fans are hearing your message and are hearing about what you're trying to do, your initiative essentially. And obviously there are some more cons on that side, which is you won't have as much customization of everything on the platform as you would if you built something from scratch. But it involves a lot of traditional, I say traditional, but the traditional digital marketing methods, whether that's via socials and ads on paid digital marketing. So that those are typical channels that you'd reach consumers, but then it also involves being smart, right? Especially if you're on an existing platform, how can you best use that platform to your advantage? Something that I thought was very, very interesting to do and very, very strong to do in this last virtual concert that we did on Roblox with 21 Pilots was we and Roblox team worked together to find existing games in the platform's universe and make sure to have a collaboration with them whereby a piece of the pre-story before the event was actually happening in those games, right? Which were totally unrelated and totally independent to the event that we were setting up with the 21 Pilots experience. That in essence allowed us to have to have first, obviously to excite and to make something interesting and compelling as a piece of content and as a piece of audience engagement for those games, right? Because they were allowed and they would have the ability to do something which would be linked to our experience, our 21 Pilots event. But it also, on the other hand, allowed us to a captive audience of that particular experience in Roblox to reach with our message and reach with a fun and engaging and interesting message, which was sort of like a challenge, a little quest that you'd have to do, the message that we were putting on a 21 Pilots virtual concert, that it was going to be massive and that everyone was invited. So these link ups, which at the end function as a portal between the main experience of 21 Pilots on Roblox and these other three games, allowed us to have a much more successful messaging strategy by being present where these audiences are, not in the ethereal side of the platform, but in actual practice, actual games that exist and have people come in back and time again.
And Kaspar, how do you create involvement around your own digital products?
Well, I mean, today a lot of the we built out pretty extensive network. There's over 600 different companies that are using it. So we're slightly in this space where a lot of companies are finding us versus us finding them. We have pretty good visibility in terms of like what developers have already built. I think what creates excitement in people is developers leveraging our technology, building out some experiences, other people seeing those experiences and coming to us and saying, hey, we want to build something as well. That's the kind of the main like growth engine we see happening, which is developers leveraging the tools that we've built. Again, simple, easy to use. That's how they can build very impactful products in a very short period of time, because we made it very easy for them. And them launching it and other developers seeing it. That's kind of the main kind of cycle we see happening. We do ourselves looking at very particular like games that we feel that provide a lot of value to the network that we're building. And for them, we just like usually reach out and say like, hey guys, this is what we're doing. This is where we can have an impact on your product, and we go from there.
Gordon, does that work in a similar fashion as Kaspar's for you?
Yeah, I mean, much the same as Kaspar. What we're interested in now is getting interesting use cases, getting people using Anything World, building, publishing games and apps with it. So yeah, at the moment we're available in Unity. You can go to our site, get.anythingworld, download our package of about 3,500 creators, building out mainly casual games and social apps with Anything World. So yeah, our interests at the moment are getting the platform into people's hands, getting them building cool stuff with it, and then co-promoting it. In fact, with Ready Player Me, we're working on a game together with Kaspar. So that's hopefully coming out next month. It's going to be super cool. And yeah, uses Ready Player Me's avatar system and Anything World's world generation system. So those two in combination are pretty powerful, we feel. Obviously, we are friends by now, but yeah, having an avatar you can bring anywhere and creating limitless worlds, like it empowers people to create really cool stuff. So yeah, games like that, we're very keen on helping to come to life. And yeah, just generally like pushing our platform and telling people you can create 3D worlds in a much easier, simpler way and more cost efficient way is what we're doing. And so yeah, we have many use cases in music. We have a few casual games coming out. So, and social as well. There's a Snap Lens coming out in a couple of weeks built on Anything World. So all these social and casual gaming applications we want to get out in the wild and get people to talk about what we're doing and create with it, basically.
Okay, so we've seen what the metaverse and avatars are, some of the ways that labels and artists utilize these, how you create them, and the promotional avenues that surround them. Now, I would like to talk business with you guys and maybe learn some more about the monetization opportunities that surround the metaverse. Gordon, would you like to share some of your thoughts on how to monetize on a metaverse?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of how we monetize as a startup, we have a subscription fee, so we're just a SaaS model at the moment. But in terms of monetizing content across the metaverse, it's huge. Like Kaspar mentioned, concerts is a good one. If you're at a concert, maybe you want to buy some merch. That's digital merch. If you see how people, spend cash in games like Among Us, even for a pet, it's kind of native for younger generation to be like, yeah, I want to customize my experience and then pay for that. So yeah, that the microtransactions and customization is a big thing. But yeah, 3D content creation, world subscription to 3D worlds for social or gaming purposes. I mean, monetization in the 3D space as the metaverse becomes more part of our lives, it's going to go through the roof. Like anything, any aspect of life that can be monetized, you can also monetize in the metaverse, I feel.
Yeah, Kaspar, is it the same for you?
Yeah, I mean, like our main way of monetizing. So the way we usually think about monetization is what can we do to kind of help the economy make money, because in the end of the day, we're a platform, which means we serve our developers with whom we are working with. The biggest driver usually for monetization has been the cosmetics. So the way you dress up your avatar. There are a lot of brands out there who believe in the next 5 years they sell more virtual fashion than the real one, because if you think what's happening today, where more and more younger generation is spending more time virtually than physically, that also means their virtual identity becomes superior. Essentially, it becomes more important, that people feel more, they invest more into how do they look and dress in a virtual world rather than real world, because of their friends and even and family, they're spending their time there. So that's why we believe that the virtual fashion as an industry is going to be really, really big. I guess you can already bring a lot of parallels from the gaming industry, how Fortnite is making billions of dollars with skins, or any other like in-app purchase, with any other game with an in-app purchases, usually focuses on cosmetics. That's essentially where our monetization strategy comes in play. I already brought an example of how we've seen it being leveraged for music concerts or industries. If we want to bring more examples from the music space, then a lot of like artists are creating their own collections in terms of like outfits. So you have a certain artist doing a concert or something, releasing a new album, and with this they release a limited edition outfits that can be purchased, where they make those outfits available on Ready Player Me, which allows us, which basically gives us a chance to make money for our developers that are building those experiences, and help them like kind of scale and extend their team and build more powerful experiences. But yeah, virtual fashion is something we're super excited about. There are definitely a lot of different ways how one can think about monetization in the metaverse. Like we have companies who sell virtual land, and you have companies who sell assets in terms of like real houses and cars, and basically like anything you can consume, like Gordon mentioned, like 3D content. 3D content is really hard to produce. 3D content married with IP is really, really great way for IP owners to leverage the buzz that's happening in the metaverse, because in the end of the day, like there's over like 3-4, I don't know, maybe over 4 billion gamers. So it's pretty fair to say that there's a large population of people who are spending their time virtually. So content is really a big part of where we see the monetization happening as well.
What about the label and artist side? Tiago, are there any forms of monetization you would like to tell us more about? Or generally speaking, do you see, a metaverse campaign reflecting on the general revenues for the artist?
Yeah, sure. So we tend to monetize primarily these experiences on a basis which is very familiar to these platforms. If you go onto this platform, part of what I've mentioned in the definition of what a metaverse was is that you could have your own identity, and that identity could be customized. Your appearance could be customized using costumes, using body parts, using skins, using apparel. All of these elements are a crucial piece of your experience online, digitally. And this allows you to reflect your interests, reflect your fandom, reflect your personality in a more defined way and in a more free way, rather than if you could not customize your avatar. And for consumers, fans, users, etc., this is a particularly important part of the metaverse, because a lot of folks are in these platforms and in these digital experiences to socialize. And part of your socialization behavior is to put an appearance forward that reflects who you are or who you want to be seen as in an effective way. Therefore, people see value in being able to customize their appearance and their avatars in these spaces. That's typically for the purposes of social currency, right? To be able to have bragging rights, or to be able to have an element of whatever that might be, attracting attention, retaining attention. That there's perceived value in these types of digital goods that allow you to customize your appearance. So that's why typically the main monetization model that we've seen so far on these platforms is whereby we allow these folks to dress up and to don any kind of apparel, which we're calling virtual merchandise, Virch, of our artists. If you were a kid in the 90s or whatever before, you'd probably wear a band t-shirt, like a Metallica t-shirt or Guns N' Roses t-shirt to your school, and everyone would say, hey, I like your t-shirt. I know that you're a fan of Metallica or Guns N' Roses. The recess today are these metaverses. And so for you to strike up these conversations and to have meaningful socialization attitudes in these, we're giving the possibility for these users to show off their interests, to show off their fandoms by having them have the Virch, whether that's a hat, a cap, a t-shirt, some trousers, some whatever the apparel, some complete skin, some body parts, whatever they might be, based off of our artists and their persona and their identity. That's typically our main monetization model in these, and it follows very much through the model that these platforms have done for a while now. That's not to say that we aren't exploring and we don't want to explore other monetization models, such as ticketing, as well as tippings and paid access experiences, or paid wall experiences, but we have not put into practice many of those yet, and those are still more to be tested models as we speak.
Nice. Just learned a new term there.
Virch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Thanks for that. All right, so we've almost reached the end of this session on the metaverse. And before I let you all go, I had one last question that I wanted to ask. What do you think are the future opportunities for the metaverse? You know, how do you see the metaverse in 3, 4, 5 years from now? Kaspar?
That's a good question. I think
Thanks.
we'll see metaverse having an impact on various different industries, like I mentioned before. For example, what's happening right now in the music space, where like Travis Scott concert in Fortnite was much more successful rather than his physical concert, just by making the concert more accessible to people. We'll see things like this happening in other industries, whether it's education, where kids that didn't have access to high quality education now being able to access that from the comfort of their homes. People who are living in remote locations being able to access like medical. We'll see a lot of things happening that will be really transformational for many different industries. And yeah, that's the kind of part that's like super exciting. Just we'll see more and more stuff being accessible on a larger scale, and that's what makes us excited every single morning to kind of wake up and work towards that particular vision.
What about you, Gordon? I mean, Anything World is building the tools for the future of content creation. and allowing people to build exactly what we have been talking about for the last half an hour or so. How do you see the metaverse in the next few years?
Yeah, we feel like what we're doing, we're going to empower a new wave of creativity and a new, I guess people will monetize it too, but what's interesting to us is this notion of like limitless worlds where you can create stuff on the fly, you know, emergent environments which are not predefined. So putting these tools in people's hands where they can use their voice or some simple UI to create whole 3D worlds and then share them, customize their experiences, share that, as you say, across various platforms is very exciting to us. We feel like it's a new wave of 3D creativity powered by machine learning, which we're at the forefront of, obviously horrifically biased, but that's very exciting. Like if anybody, including, I don't know, our grandparents can build out 3D worlds using their voice and then share it with their grandkids, for example. I don't know why I'm using a generational gap, but that's powerful. That's tools in their hands that they never had anywhere near access to before. And that's exciting. And then I think the metaverse in general will just creep into people's lives. I won't call it the metaverse, but maybe they're at school and they have an avatar, or, you know, they're sick or coronavirus comes around again and we're all in a virtual social place. It will just creep, I think, into people's lives, digital representations of themselves, digital worlds, 3D environments. And obviously gaming is leading the way. It's already like there a little bit, but I think generally in people's lives, this stuff will creep in and we'll all have our representations in our worlds alongside the real world. And yeah, that's exciting, powered by like new waves of creativity. It's an exciting time.
Interesting stuff, guys. Thanks. Tiago, your own opinion of how the metaverse is going to look like in the next few years?
I think there are many. I mean, I think the word of the day, or the statement of the day, is that game time is probably going to go down this year as people start going back to school, going back to the office, going back to going into clubs and to festivals and to concerts. But I think actually this behavior that people got ingrained with over the last year and a half is not going to go away. I think the interest in these spaces and in these experiences is definitely not going to disappear overnight. And I think there's been a massive shift, a massive glass window which was broken, whereby some people still thought that games were for kids or that games were not for them. And I think that preconceived notion of what these interactive 3D based experiences, or even 2D based, but game engine created experiences were just fun pastimes for people other than them. I think a lot of people shed away those preconceived notions and actually tried to go onto these platforms for the first time, tried to experience virtual concerts for the first time and enjoy them. And I think a lot of those people might not come back, but a lot of people will also come back. And so you have a net positive of an increase of new users, new players, as well as obviously the increasing and ever more present younger generations accruing user bases in these platforms. But I think you'll have a much more vibrant community and a much more, because that's a natural consequence, a much more vibrant creator community. And with that, you'll have, I think, more developed, more interesting experiences. I think last time I was on a panel with Gordon, we were talking about how the creator community could make these spaces feel really special, right? And one of the things that I mentioned was how the persistence of some decisions made by the creator community or by the community would be a very interesting one, right? Where you would be able to go into a world, a metaverse like this, and everyone will be a creator because everyone's actions will have an impact in that world. If you go out in the real world and you throw a rock at a window, or if you spray paint with a can of spray a wall, that's going to be broken in the window, or that's going to be painted in the wall until someone else comes in and fixes it, right? That level of persistence, for example, is something that we also introduced in the recent 21 Pilots experience with spray paint graffiti being semi-persistent in this world for a duration of time. I think that's really one transition into these metaverses which I'm really excited about, whereby you aren't necessarily segmented between just a consumer and a creator, because you can be a creator via your actions. If you light a building on fire in the metaverse, it will be burned down until someone else fixes it. And unless you decide to gather a group of fans and actually build a new building. If you take that into the infinity, I think the possibilities for the metaverses are becoming quite compelling, because then everyone can build and shape the world around it and shape the story as well that is driven from the architecture of those worlds. That's a future of the metaverse that I'm really excited about, and I'd love to explore more. So if anyone out there is building something like this or working on something like this, reach out to me. I'd love to hear about it.
Wonderful. This was extremely insightful. Thank you, guys. Thank you to Tiago, Gordon, and Kaspar for sharing their knowledge here with us today. You can find them, of course, on LinkedIn, or if you are signed up on the IMX delegates database. And of course, thank you to everyone who has been watching us. I wish you all a good continuation of IMX. Ciao.